Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in our congregation, and for Maureen and Pat, Gleli Day.
Jack,
The Happy Mother's Day in Danish.
You had to start. The worst thing you two could have ever done is give him some stuff in Danish. That's the worst thing you could have ever done. Now we're stuck with this. He speaks.
Well, but do you think Danish is bad? Ask the Dutch, and they'll give you a run for your money.
Yeah, be happy we're not Dutch.
Exactly. There you go.
And so we got my classmate Chet, who's checking in with us this morning. And let's see, we got Bobby and Carrie Vance, who's reading of I Rise. I don't think we'll have to have them do that annually. That was just too good. I mean, that has to be something that's being read annually. I mean, that's just too good. The way they did that was just extraordinary. So wait a couple more minutes, and then we will go. I've got a long list of announcements, which I will put online again tomorrow. But we will do, let's see, Dennis has made it in from Port St. Lucie. What we've got here geographically, we've got Port Orange, Forest Hills, and the wilds of Homestead, almost all the wilds of Homestead. Chet is out near the airport in Miami. Christopher Diaz is in North Miami. Bobby and Carrie are in Kissimmee, which, if our governor doesn't watch out, will be vacated lock, stock, and barrel. And then what are they going to do if Disney leaves Florida? Yes. Dennis Walcott is in Port St. Lucie. So let's see what we've got here. Let me start with some announcements then. Today we've got, let's see, we've got, there's Sharon Walcott. Good morning, Sharon. There she is. All right. Okay, we got Cindy is going to be giving the share today, and her husband Larry is going to be doing words for the agape, the service. He has a few words to say today, I think. Pam Gray is going to be doing some readings, first time reading with us. Donald is doing tech, and Donald is on the way of transitioning into being our new parish administrator. Gregory Bowe has decided to go off to law school. Excuse me. Yes. So he's transitioning to law school in August. Okay. I want you to all remember to hold close the following people. Felix Becerra lost his dad. Zoraida lost both parents within 3 weeks. Her mother had pancreatic cancer, but her father had lung cancer. Nobody knew it, nobody, including him. And then he passed 3 weeks after his wife did. Roy, his mother-in-law, passed away a few weeks back. And Base's grandmother passed away a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So remember, we keep all of these people close. I remind everybody that when we have a funeral, everybody's there, but they forget the days after. And what happens a week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks out? Who's remembering those who mourn? So that's why I keep on mentioning people we hold close, not just immediately, but days after. Okay. Memorial Sunday is going to be an interesting Sunday. Not only remembering vets, but we're going to be taking a look at Vietnam versus Ukraine. That's going to be an interesting discussion. Serge is going to be assisting, and I've got a new person for everybody I want you to meet. Her name is Andrea Hawkins Kemper. She is a close friend of Michelle's, and is interested in possibly working with us. So she'll be assisting in Memorial Day and probably preaching once in July. Okay. Maureen, Pat's 100-year-old neighbor passed. She was a Holocaust survivor. Wow. We'll remember her in a moment. 70 years ago, way ahead of its time, was a drive-in church. There was a drive-in on Daytona Beach shores, and the drive-in movie sold, and a congregation bought it, and they did something absolutely unheard of. They had the congregation met on Sunday driving in, and where you'd ordinarily hook up with a thing, you hooked up and you heard the service. They had a small area for people who wanted to get out of their cars, and other people were on the way to the beach. Other people went to surf, but they stopped into church first. This was considered weird and wild by traditionalists, but they anticipated COVID and going online by decades. Larry Deitch was there from 1995 to 2012. And he said it became a kind of place to go where you could sit in the car and you could be whatever you wanted to be, whoever you wanted to be, and be safe. So they anticipated Florida. Now, so it's no accident that Cindy and Larry are with us. He has a long history. They both do of working with many, many types of people from many, many backgrounds. Okay, about today. We have in our congregation all types of mothers. We have people who have never had babies and have acted as better mothers than people who've had babies. We have mothers that have suffered through all kinds of work with their children. We have had grandmothers. We've had men that act as moms. 17% of the men in this country are stay-at-home moms. They're dads, stay-at-home dads. We have learned that family is defined incredibly differently. It's more realistic today than it's always been that way. Cindy is going to remind us of a type of mother that existed a while ago. I'm thinking my mother died at the age of 94. It's a generation that if we don't hear about from time to time, we will lose. But many of you are older, not as old as me. I am now post-antique. But many of you will have parents that, shut up, Donald. I see he's laughing. This is the parish administrator laughing. I mean, seriously. All right. I mean, some of you are going to remember, or not remember, but we've had parents that grew up in the 30s and in the 20s and 30s. And what they brought to mothering is very, very different than what we do today. We need to remember them. And so Cindy's going to be sharing a personal story about her own mom from another generation. Kay Schweitzer had a nice song about this, but unfortunately we could not load it up. But we remember Kay and her work. Two other things. I'm almost finished. I don't know if any of you saw the email about my heart. It turns out I have a very strange heart, literally. I mean, it is the exact opposite of what it's supposed to be. It's got small, very powerful ventricles and very, very large atriums. So if you have a leaky mitral valve, it's no big deal because it just gets little splits and your atrium is huge. The cardiologist said if you're going to have a heart transplant and you're going to have a leaky valve, you couldn't got a better combination whatsoever. I never saw the whole heart. It's a very, very good heart. I mean, it's a solid good heart, but it's just engineered. He said it's a way to be if you're going to have any heart problems. Who knew? And finally, the semester began. I want to share this with you. I hope you'll get a big kick out of this. I warned everybody, you're going to love this, 2 classes in a row, emails, do not take this class if you feel uncomfortable. The governor does not want you to feel uncomfortable. This class will make you feel uncomfortable. So don't take it if that's the way you feel. I yelled, I screamed, I stomped, I literally stomped up and down, and I gave examples of things to make you feel uncomfortable. I put up the famous passage from the Bible. I said, here, by the way, you want a quote from a Bible? Here's the Bible. And David's love for Jonathan surpassed that of the love of a woman. I said, if that makes you uncomfortable, you do not want to take this class because that's from the Bible and you ought to deal with that. Nobody would leave. Kids thought this was a riot. And then I finally said, hey, let's say one of you just simply in all honesty cannot take the class. You just can't. I will respect that. But you will not, cannot, and shall not in my class cancel the class for everybody else. You do not speak for everybody else. You speak only for yourself. Then I gave, are you ready yet? The dropout dates. Again and again and again. The dropout day came and nobody dropped. So anyway, the chair said, because it's an elective, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this, if somebody wants to raise hell, nobody's going to give them any support because you bent over backwards to explain what the class was like, and it's an elective. So at least you know, everybody, if I get fired, I did it the right way. All right. Finally, one last thing, and we get on with this. You know, everybody, we have no money. So whatever you can give, whenever you can give it, is deeply appreciated. We have no endowment. We do not have hundreds of thousands of dollars. We don't have a building where we get $50,000 a year rental every year. We don't have any of that. So whatever little you can give, whenever you can, is deeply, deeply appreciate it. We have PayPal places you can send by check. Anything you can do to be good, we deeply appreciate. Okay, Packed Care has joined us from Miami. Alan and Eddie are up in New York as well. That gives us Alan and Eddie, Pam, Danny, Maureen, transplant, no pun intended, Pat, and let's see, Pam, yeah, a bunch of New Yorkers today. So let's begin with a lighting of the memorial candle. And I want you to remember in the memorial candle, everybody that was shot this week in our free America, everybody can carry a gun. Then I also want you to light the memorial candle for gratitude for the Supreme Court of the state of Montana, which voted 7-0 to completely invalidate every major bill the Republican legislature passed limiting the right of women to make choices. They passed 5 bills, the governor signed it, and the state Supreme Court voted 7-0. It violated the state constitution that guarantees everybody the right to personal freedom and personal choice. It's nice to know some people exist. This congregation exists for personal freedom and personal choice. Nobody tells you what to do or what to believe. You have paths to choose, and we honor all of them. Having said that, let us read together, if you will, if Donald will pull this up, about the memorial candle this morning. And if you'd be kind enough to read with me. We light this memorial candle to celebrate those who have taken on the task of nurturing a young one, baby, child, or youth into adulthood, to celebrate those who have nurtured the light of truth and compassion in giving minds and hearts, to celebrate those who have committed time, money, energy to the growth of others in this world. We light this memorial candle to celebrate and hold dear this flame of love. Amen. And here comes the sun. Our call to worship today is long, but it sets the tone for who and what we believe about moms and dads and families. I'd ask you to read the indented part. It's a responsive call to worship. We come together today in praise and thanksgiving for the gift of life itself. And if you'd read the indented part, someone gave birth to us, and some of us have given birth. All of us have been mothered in our time. All of us have been mothered. At that life, all that life is made of, a parent is made of too. Today we sing the songs of so many. Mothers, fathers who are single parents, foster parents, mothers, fathers who relinquish their young out of necessity. Mothers, fathers who found their heart in adoption. Mothers, fathers who left their children in 1,000 ways. Mothers, fathers who rejoice, and mothers and fathers who mourn. And together we also sing the songs of grandmother, grandfather, the auntie, the uncle, the classroom teacher, the religious exploration teacher, the babysitter, even the nurturing neighbor with endless cookies and time. And if you'd join me in reading together those who wish, may the divine within us and around us move us to continually support moms and dads, families, single and many remembered, on their journey of growth and love. May we all be responsible toward each other, the environment, and all creatures, great and small. Amen. The following reading was not written yesterday. It was not expressed yesterday. Pam is going to read to us from Socrates, if you would, Pam. There you go.
The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children are now tyrants, not the servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up dainties at the table, cross their legs, and tyrannize their teachers.
Yes, 2,500 years ago. This is a reading from one of the most Jewish of the writings in the Christian New Testament. Some people brought their children to Jesus so that he might place his hands on them and pray for them. His disciples told the people to stop bothering him. But Jesus said, "Let the children come to me and don't try to stop them." People who are like these children belong to God's kingdom. After Jesus has placed his hands on the children, he left. And a responsive reading, again, for families and mothers, if you'd read that indented in green. Blessed is the person who feeds and warms, washes and comforts a child and soothes them in illness, for they shall be called caregiver. Blessed is the person who gives shelter and food, clothing, toys, books, and tools. They shall be called provider. Blessed is the person who opens doors into children's experience, who explains the puzzling and wonders at the mysterious. They shall be called teacher. Blessed is the person who shields a child from that which will either wither or warp, who protects a child from abuse and exploitation, who guards them against bullying and scorn, for they shall be called defender. Blessed is the person who takes the time to listen, who is there for a child in the darkness, who is aware of the fears, who speaks the word of encouragement in moments of despair, for they shall be called sustainer. Blessed is the person who guides a child in search for beauty, who encourages them at what is daunting, who steadies them as they explore new experiences, and who fires their aspirations and their dreams, for they shall be called inspire. And blessed are all these persons, who help bring an infant along the many paths to maturity, for in them is the future well-being of humanity. And Pam will again read a fabulous reading from Shel Silverstein, if you would, Pam.
I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy Ann McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps. My mouth is wet, my throat is dry. I'm going blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I've counted 16 chicken pox. And there's one more, that's 17. And don't you think my face looks green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue. It might be instamatic flu. I cough and sneeze and gasp and choke. I'm sure that my left leg is broke. My hip hurts when I move my chin. My belly button's caving in. My back is wrenched. My ankle's sprained. My appendix pains each time it rains. My nose is cold. My toes are numb. I have a sliver in my thumb. My neck is stiff. Oops, sorry. My neck is stiff. My voice is weak. I hardly whisper when I speak. My tongue is filling up my mouth. I think my hair is falling out. My elbow's bent, my spine ain't straight. My temperature is 108. My brain is shrunk, I cannot hear. There's a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail and my heart is, what? What's that? What's that you say? You say today is Saturday? Goodbye, I'm going out to play.
Thank you, Pam. In the past Mother's Day time, we have had Ikra, who is from Pakistan and a Muslim share. We've had Marguerite and Leslie Ann, lesbian parents who have shared. We've had single parents, single dads, married couples share. We've had everybody share, but we have not had a preacher's wife share. And I don't think any of us really appreciate how difficult it could be to be a rabbi's wife or a minister's wife or anybody else's wife, because you can't say much. So Cindy says to me, well, if I share, I really want to say what's on my mind. And I said, this is the place to do that. Everybody says what's on their mind, and it's perfectly fine. So Cindy volunteered to share. Gail Besall was to be with her. And Gail abandoned because she had to go up to another place to be with a granddaughter. But she's the one who sent along the information about the drive-in church where Larry and Cindy served for 17 years, caring for lots and lots of diverse people. So Cindy, thank you very much for being with us again and sharing this time.
Well, I have a little disclaimer I have to say before I start. Every church that Larry served, I always asked, could I please preach one Sunday? And his answer to me always was no, because you will name names and no one will be there the next Sunday. So if I'm not any good, it's his fault, because I never had any practice. Okay, so Ken, you're going to be shocked to hear this, but I was quite the sassy little girl. And the punishment for being a sassy little girl to my mom was to sit on a kitchen chair for 5 minutes. I could not wait for that timer to go off. Our kids were grounded to their bedrooms. Our grandchildren, who are perfect, never had to be disciplined. And our great-grandchildren, I have seen get a 5-minute timeout, which is reminiscent of me sitting on a kitchen chair 60 plus years ago. What goes around comes around. When I really irritated my mom, she would say, Cindy, you would make a preacher swear. Well, after Larry and I married, I called her one day and I said, well, Mom, I did it. And she said, did what? And I said, made a preacher swear. I am a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. Who knew I'd live this long? This morning, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my mom. She was a doer and a giver. She would take an elderly neighbor to the doctor. She always fixed a Sunday dinner plate for another elderly neighbor who couldn't get out anymore. She took her own mother grocery shopping and did anything her parents needed. I remember coming home and seeing a stranger on our back patio eating lunch. Today we call them homeless. Back in our day, they were called hobos.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody needed anything, my mom was there to help them, including animals. You know, not all mothers are good. As an example, our cat Ginger was not a good mother. One morning she called her kittens and she said, come on kids, let's go for a walk. So she took her kittens for a walk and Ginger came back alone. My mom searched and searched for those kittens and finally found them. Brought him back to Ginger, who did not seem that pleased to see him. Years later, when my parents moved out to the country, my mom rescued a sheep that followed her around like a puppy. I grew up in an independent Christian church where if you were not baptized by immersion, you were going to hell in a handbasket. My mother, a Methodist, faithfully attended our church every Sunday, helped with all the dinners that the Ladies' Aid served to different groups in our community. And one time, she really did this. She made 14 pies in one day to be served at one of the dinners. She was always there on work days to help clean the church, whether it was inside or out. But she could never teach a Sunday school class or hold an office because she hadn't been immersed. We always had a revival every year before Easter. After one really scary fire, hell, and brimstone sermon, my mom found me crying in my bedroom. She wanted to know why I was crying, and I told her, because you're going to hell. And she said, and why am I going to hell? And I said, because you have not been immersed. In a calm but very firm voice, she told me, if I'm not worried about it, don't you be worried about it. And so my first lesson, and one that I will always remember, we are all God's children. My mom wasn't perfect, but she was the perfect mom for me. The end.
All right. All right. Thank you, Cindy. That is another time and a place. Did you know Cindy mentioned hobos? I don't know if everybody remember that. Homeless have always been with us. You mentioned something else about, many of you may not know what immersion is. There are churches that believe that you, number one, must be baptized. And number two, it must be done by being in underwater. You must go underwater 3 times. Others pour water, and at All Souls, we have so many different denominations represented and so many different faith traditions represented. That has not been a thing at all for us because we have so many represented. But I'm saying it's interesting that all of those things, and then Cindy comes out of this very, very conservative background with her husband at this church in Daytona Beach Shores, which became, if you will, an incredible background for people of all different backgrounds to find acceptance and love. Went from one very exclusive tradition, and by the time they get to Daytona Beach Shores, become incredibly inclusive and loving and opening to all. It's incredible what a small town can do, and then as you move and evolve and evolve. Thank you. Our song, Spirit of Life, and then Larry is going to lead us in some words. Before we begin, I want to share with you some information about Larry because he's a walking miracle. Larry was an incredible pastor for so many different kinds of people for 17 years in a really interesting place in Florida, Daytona Beach, greater Daytona Beach. I was over in Port Orange. I had left and he had just come. Larry developed rheumatoid arthritis, and he was supposed to take a shot to help the rheumatoid arthritis, but it's like everything else. If you don't read, if somebody doesn't read the side effects, you can have problems. And they gave him the shot, and the next day he was totally paralyzed. And he remained paralyzed, totally paralyzed, for quite a while. And just now what you see is a man who's come back. He is able to function, able to share, able to sit up, able to talk. And you've heard the stories he gives are just incredible. He has not lost the Larry that has helped so many, many, many people over the years. And so, in fact, I hope you agree with me. We are blessed to have Larry and Cindy both to share and move us along. And Larry's going to be preaching in June. I can't wait to assist. And Larry, if you lead us some words before we to share our welcome.
The basic ingredients in bread have been the same literally for centuries. And people take those ingredients and they make bread. So why is it sometimes those ingredients are better when one person makes it than when another person makes it? My mother, when I was young, made what we called homemade bread. And it was good bread. But my brother and I were so stupid when we were young. We used to beg my mother to get Wonder Bread. Any of you remember the taste of Wonder Bread with those balloons on the package, and it helps build strong bodies 12 ways? Well, you don't really remember the taste because there was no taste. It was just simply bread. But some people take those ingredients and they create something totally different. My mother-in-law, Lucille, would make homemade bread, and a loaf of her bread tasted so wonderful. Same ingredients my mom used, but it was better. And then she would make these rolls, a little larger than dinner rolls, not quite as big as hamburger rolls. And she would bake them and have them when we would come there for family meals. And I didn't care if I got roast beef, steak, chicken, or whatever. All I wanted to do was eat those rolls. They were heavenly, just wonderful. And we would sit there at a fellowship table, much like we gather symbolically at a fellowship table here. And all of us at the table, in-laws, outlaws, everybody, we all waited for one statement to be made. It wasn't a prayer. It was my father-in-law, and he would say at every meal, "Are you out of bread?" Which simply meant, "Pass the bread to me. I want some more of Lucille's bread." We take bread, and it doesn't matter what it is, what kind it is, or who made it. And we break that bread, and symbolically we join together at this table to partake of the bread of life. And we take a cup and we bless it, and we drink from the cup, and it symbolizes our unity together. So let us come to the fellowship table, one and all. Everybody is welcome here at this table. Amen.
Amen. And so as we conclude Mother's Day, let us use our regular prayers that we say together, celebrating families and all that that means, all the diversity, all the races, all the different backgrounds. Think of all the mothers who never gave birth, but mothered better than some mothers who did give birth. Think of fathers, aunties, uncles, friends, neighbors, what makes us all grow up, nurtured, and loved in some way. So let us remember the words as we begin and end on Mother's Day celebration and Family Day from Winnie the Pooh. If you repeat after me, promise me you'll remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think. God didn't promise days without pain, laughter without sorrows, sun without rain. But the divine did promise strength for the day, comfort for the tears, and light for the way. What an appropriate hymn as we close today, You'll Never Walk Alone. For our final words, we have a blessing that is a blending of Ireland and India. And then stay for a moment, if you will, so we can say goodbye to everybody personally. Now may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall softly on your fields. And when we meet again, may the divine in me greet and embrace the divine in you. Amen. Thank you, Cindy and Larry from Port Orange. Thank you so much. Pat and Maureen Sullivan, Chet, my classmate, Bobby Vance and Carrie Vance. We're going to have you read once a year at least that reading. That is memorialized forever. We cannot thank you enough. We got Donald Grimmy transitioning into a parish administrator as well. Pam Gray, thank you. You read that Shel Silverstein too well. Everybody was going, yes, that's me today. Thank you, Dennis and Sharon Walcott, now in Port St. Lucie and loving it. Danny Sorkin from New York. Christopher Diaz, who speaks this terrible language from Dutch. No, it's not Dutch.
No. Danish is not a terrible language. It's because if it had been a rough language like Dutch, they wouldn't have made the Danish pastries, or which literally in Danish they're called Viennese bread, Vienna plate. It wouldn't have been nice and light and airy. It would have been much denser.
You know, I never liked you anyway. Christopher, you're a riot. You're
Well,
so
I guess,
bright. You are so bright with languages. It's scary. I mean, you could it's a gift. How many languages can you speak?
My most fluent ones are English, Spanish, and French, and I'm somewhat conversational at a basic level in Persian or / Farsi, and I know a little bit of I know some words of Japanese and little drops of Irish and and some words in Hungarian.
And Romanian too, remember?
And Romanian.
And Romanian.
Yeah.
I have enough trouble with English. All right, Alan and Eddie, good to see you from New York as well. Amelia Schweitzer from 10 miles west of Merritt Island. Pat Kincaid from Miami. And Nick, God bless Nick, who takes care of our WhatsApp and keeps us informed of what's going on. Thank you so much. Next time, we're going to be looking at Vietnam. Does anybody remember Vietnam? And then you compare that with Ukraine. Oh, my. Does anybody remember where have all the flowers gone?
Oh,
You got to
yes.
get out of this place. I ain't your fortunate son. Oh, my, oh, my, oh, my. So those of you who are ready for a journey into the past and into the present. And Roy Martin, we remembered you earlier, keeping you close as we remember you and your family and your former mother-in-law. May she rest in peace. Good to see you, Roy. So thank you all. See you soon. Bless you, bless you, bless you on this day and every day. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody have a good week.
Thanks, Daniel. You too.
Bye.
Thank you, Deitches. Thank you, Deitches.
Care, everyone.